Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, everyone. All our students, all our participants joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you. Welcome to the International Internship University, IIU. I am thrilled to be your trainer and resource person for today's session on learning styles and their implication in teaching and learning. I am Dr. Joel Olaniyan from Nigeria, your trainer for the day. This session is a golden opportunity for educators, counselors, parents, and students alike. I am into education management and business consultancy. I am with Educator Mindset, the CEO of the Educator Mindset. So thanks to our visionary leader, Mr. Peish Pandit, and IIU community, we are here to equip you with skills and knowledge that will truly empower you. Our goal is to ensure that no one is deprived of education and skills, fostering a world filled with capable individuals. So today, we are diving into a captivating presentation that will help us to understand teaching learning process, learning styles, and their implications. So get ready to embark on this transformative learning journey. So without further ado, let's kickstart today's session and explore the innovations in the teaching learning process. Get ready to enrich your knowledge and your skills and broaden your horizons. So are you ready? We go. I'm going to share my slide. Kindly enable me to share the slide, please.
You can, Dr. Joel.
Here we go. Again, I want to thank you for joining us. We are having a wonderful topic today, which borders on learning styles and their implication in teaching and learning. So when we talk about learning styles, basically, we can look at the way we receive information. Learning styles can also be regarded as learning preference. And it is the way we receive information that we want to talk about today. So as you see on the picture, you have the visual, that is to see. You have the auditory, that is to hear, and the kinesthetic, that is to do it. And this is just basic. There is more to that as we go on. As cognitive goals to this particular presentation, we want to learn how to use our own words to define and describe learning styles. Of course, like I said, learning styles can also be regarded as learning preference. We want to discuss common learning styles found in learners. We want to be able to identify the following characteristics for each learning styles: the student needs, their desires, their preferences in instruction, their strengths and weaknesses inherent in each of their style. We want to be able to explain how learning styles impact the classroom dynamics. We want to identify the tools used to classify learning styles. We want to describe how students' own learning styles will affect their instruction. And for affective goals, we want to know the value of the diversity found in various learning styles, with the support that we use, that the use of the learning styles assessment does in teaching and learning, and the support the use of a variety of teaching styles to recall all learning styles. So that is the affective domain, the way we feel about it. And the psychomotor goals is to create a lesson plan, which you are going to do on your own later on after the presentation. And you'll be able to utilize a stimulating variety of teaching techniques, activities, and break for the purpose for maximizing the various learning styles present in your students. So whether you are a student, whether you are a teacher, whether you are a parent, whether you are a consultant, you are welcome. This training is for you. So why is this module important? We all know that classroom teaching is an ongoing experiment into the modes, models, and preferences of thinking and processing informations by learners. That is, there is a receiving and processing of information, and then there is an output. But the medium through which the information is received is what we want to talk about today. How do our learners receive information? We want to be able to maximize success within the classroom by understanding that various learning styles and preferences exist and vary among our students. We want to be able to incorporate activities that will maximize students' preference. And of course, this will make learning more enjoyable for you and your students, but we also make it faster and easier for them to learn any material at all. So what is learning style? Like I said earlier, learning style can also be regarded as learning preference. So throughout these modules, the terms learning styles and learning preference will be synonymous. I can use them interchangeably. Like I said also that information enters our brain through three main ways. Information enters your brain in three main ways. The sight, that is what you see, the hearing, that is what you can hear, and the touch, which happens to be what you lay your hands or touch. So which one of these is most called your learning styles? So I'm asking you this question. Have you ever done a test to know your learning styles? Okay, so before this training, before this webinar is over, I'm going to pass a link, and then I'm sure it's going to be posted live to you so that you can follow it and get to know your own learning styles. So like I said, we have the visual, those who learn by sight, the auditory, those who learn by hearing, the kinesthetic, those who learn by touch. But this is just a type in the learning styles. We are going to learn about three different styles of learning. So visual, auditory, kinesthetic, what we call the VAC learning styles, is just a type. Then looking at learning style again, each person perceives, processes, and stores and retrieves materials in a unique way that is individual to their preference and style. And that is true. Whenever we have our children in the classroom, they receive information and they perceive and they process information in different ways. We want to be able to reach our learners at the shortest possible time. Gone are the days in the 20th century or before the 20th century where learning was just pure lecture. There was no teaching aids, there was no teaching materials to help the learners. Now we are in the fast age, we are in data age, we are in technology age where children are exposed to various things, and we must be able to adopt different methods to reach them so that their preference of receiving our lecture, our lessons is more enhanced. So that is why educational researchers, psychologists, and sociologists have observed students in education settings to identify patterns of learner preferences and determine if there are any commonalities. So of course, learning styles theories as a result of research. So it is research that brought about the learning styles we are talking about today. A learning style theory will look at only one aspect of the spectrum of learning. For example, a given theory may describe the manner in which an individual processes materials. So when a theory is propounded and is invented, it is tested on the learner, on a group of learners, and the outcome, the result of it, if it is positive, it is now adopted by the general public. And as far as learning style is concerned, it has become a commonly known technique. Learners have preference for different types of inputs and experiences, such as some prefer structure and others like flexibilities. Some students prefer that their teacher or their lecturer come to class and put a structure to their delivery. That is the way they receive the information perfectly, while some would prefer a flexible methods involving them. Some prefer independence, while others like a social group. So that is why we have direct teaching, and we have group learning, we have group method, we have project-based and all that. But we are not talking about that today. Some prefer auditory, some prefer to hear their teachers talking, some would prefer to see what you are talking about, and some would prefer to be involved, to move their fingers, to move their body when the teaching and learning process is ongoing. But an important point to remember as we progress through this model is that learners are flexible and adapt to a variety of presentation styles. Although we have inherent preferences, we will learn in most every environment. So what we mean by that is that there is a particular learning style that is dominant over the other styles. It doesn't mean that the learner does not possess other styles of learning, but there is a particular one that is dominant. Is either the learner is more versatile in hearing, or is more versatile in seeing what you're talking about, or is most versatile in being involved in projects. So teaching and learning is more pleasant when our individual preferences are targeted in the methods chosen to present the material. So as an instructor, you assess the learning preferences via the entrance assessment or learning style profiles. So in our schools, before we start a new academic year, we do what we call baseline assessment or entrance exams. This is to be able to know the level of the children. So we have examples: health, occupation, basic entrance test. We have Myers-Briggs personality test indicator. We have learner styles inventory, the dumb and done, and many other instruments that exist to test the children's learning. So let's now look at how do you assess your personal learning style. Instructors should know their own learning styles. It is good to start from there. If you are a teacher, you are a consultant, you are a professor, you are a consultant consulting for schools, it is very good for you to know your learning style. And I'm going to share the link for you to do a quick test to know the type of learner that you are. We tend to teach the way we like to learn, and that is true. That is why you must know your learning style. The way and manner you teach is the way you learn. So if care is not taken, you might forget about the diversity of learners in your classroom, and then you'll be focusing on your own way of impacting knowledge, thereby neglecting the abilities and the learning preference of other students. So that is why when you are teaching, sometimes some students will raise their hand and say, "Sir, I do not understand. Sir, can you explain again?" They may not tell you that they cannot just rely on you telling them alone, listening to you. They might want to see what you are talking about. They might want to be involved in a group activity where they can practice what you are talking about. So because of that, they are not understanding what you are talking about. So you might need to know your own learning preference. Either you are auditory or visual or kinesthetic type of person, then you will be able to adapt your limitation and strength to the learner's ability. That is what makes your learning much more effective. So when the misunderstanding arises in the classroom, use your knowledge of learning styles to reflect upon how you are presenting the material. So what we mean by misunderstanding does not mean that it is a quarrel. It is just like the example I gave just now, that the learner may raise his or her hand and say, "Sir, I do not understand." There is a misunderstanding there. So you might now have to use your knowledge of today's topic to be able to reach out to them. Oh, you do not understand. Maybe I have a picture on my laptop. Let me project you a picture that explains what I just said, and then they will just get it. Okay, let's go into groups. You divide them into groups, you give them an activity, and they get it done, then they get to understand better. The truth is that most of us teachers today, we like talking. We talk for almost the whole period before we can give the children the time to express themselves. In the 21st century, it is no longer like that. In the 21st century, you allow your children to participate. Then you bring in variety of tools, variety of teaching aids that will enable them to understand your topic even beyond what you have taught them. So this will provide clues to the reason that there is a misunderstanding. That will be solved if we are able to do that. Still, in our presentations, in the 21st century, as a teacher, you should be able to have your teaching in a presentation format, just like what you are seeing on the screen. You must have a PowerPoint that is embedded with images, sometimes videos, sometimes YouTube links, maybe website links, and a lot of images that will engage your students. Because when you have presentation, when you are presenting your lesson, it gives them variety of options to learn. So, and you avoid labeling students by their preference. You may alter the expectation of students when you label them. So you don't have to label them, oh, you are an auditory learner, you can't learn except you see. No, we don't need to label them. That is just the way they learn, and we must reach to them. We are the teachers. We are the ones that must discover their learning key, their learning potential, and then we open it and they get the learning. And once they get it, they run away, they run with it, and they are more stable in the academic program. Some choices for variety in class sessions and assignments may include that you might want to provide visual stimulation through the use of PowerPoint, like I just said. You can also provide videos. You can provide overheads. You can provide writing on a whiteboard or on a flip chart. Whichever that works with any topic you're about to teach, please endeavor to use them because it enhances the way your children receive information. You provide kinesthetic activities such a model building, use of equipment, and skill labs. So if you're in a laboratory, you might want to put them in a groups. They might want to do an inquiry-based activity. They might want to do a problem-based activity. They might want to do a project-based activity, and so on and so forth. You can provide group or social activities such as discussion, work groups, and response teams. All of these are scenarios that you can put in place in your classroom that will enhance the way your children receive information. So this is just to introduce you to the basics. That's how our children, how our students receive information. The knowledge of learning styles and creation of diverse lesson plans will help your students to be comfortable in an optimal learning for their learning preference during part of each class. And that is true. Your diverse lesson plans with lots of variety that we have talked about will help your students to grow and develop beyond their learning preference. They will evolve, they will grow, and they will improve in the way that they learn when you give them so many options to choose from. As learners, you can all adapt to the different learning environments. Yes, we are human beings, and human beings are social beings. Human beings can adapt to any environment. As an example, you might want to reflect on an undesirable classroom experience to see if part of the problem may have been due to differences in learning styles between the instructor and you. So talking to you now, the student, you might want to reflect back. There might be topics that you have not understood well as a result of how your teachers presented it, right? So that is why as teachers, we must present to them all the options available. So let's delve into the main matter now. And we want to look at the three major types of learning styles, or the three major types of learning preferences. So like I told you, the auditory, the visual, the kinesthetic preferences, that is a type, which I have talked about. The second type is the social and independent learning styles. And the third one is the analytical and global learning preferences. Let's look at them one after the other. So let's look at the visual, auditory, kinesthetic learners. This type of learners express a preference in the manner in which their information is received. So let's look at number one, auditory learners. This is just what is peculiar to them. When you see an auditory learner, what are the things that you see? What are the things that they manifest? They prefer to hear information spoken. They can absorb a lesson with little effort. They may not need careful notes to learn. They are the types we call eye flyers. They often avoid eye contact in order to concentrate. They read aloud to themselves. They like background music when they study. So you can see this is their characteristics. And all of these things is sending a message. And what is the message that they are sending to you? Let me hear you more. Let me hear you more. They are auditory learners. And these ones can adapt to any environment, actually. Let's move on to the next subtype. Those are the visual learners. They prefer to see information such as pictures, diagrams, cartoons, demonstrations. They prefer to see picture words and concepts that they hear as images. They easily get distracted in lessons with no visual aids. So, and they are overwhelmed with intense visual accompanied by lots of lecture. They get easily distracted. They get easily taken away when there is no visuals. They benefit from using charts, maps, notes, and flashcards when studying. So you can see the difference between the auditory and the visual. So if you are only saying, if you are only talking in the class, this group of people, you will lose them. They will be absent-minded. So that is why you must include aids, teaching materials that involves them to see, that permits them to see and to identify things. So, and the message they are sending to you is, let me see. Let me see what you are saying. The third group are the tactile or kinesthetic learners. They prefer to touch as their primary mode for taking in information. So they like movement a lot. In traditional lecture situations, they should write out important facts. So they like working. You must engage them. They create study sheets connected to vivid examples. They love role playing, and it can help them learn and remember important ideas. And they may benefit by using manipulatives, either in the nursery or in the primary or in the college. This type of learners love to be involved. They love role playing. They love musical display. They love being involved in groups and all that. So if you are teaching, try to ensure you incorporate materials that will make your learners to be kinesthetic, to be moving around. They should not sit all through your lesson. That is not healthy enough. So this is the first type of the learners we are talking about. And the message they are sending to you, they are telling you, let me experience it. Whatever you are saying, I want to experience it, so that they can go ahead and say, oh, okay, I get it now, because they are involved. So we are done away with the first part of the learners, which are the visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. We are now looking at the social and independent learners. And these people, they describe their preferences in receiving information. They describe it. So for the social learners, they process information best when multitasking in busy environments with other people. So they love that. They tend to enjoy study sessions, group projects, and cooperative learning. They love it. They use group work in class, classroom discussions, study groups, and skill groups. They allow music as background noise. They don't really mind the noise around. They learn freely. They are social learners. They love being involved with others. These are the ones that always check on their friends in the classroom. These are the ones that identify those who are absent. They like being with their friends. In the contrary, the independent learners, they process information best when working independently or in isolation. So they tend to work best in quiet, undisturbed, regular study environment. They don't like noise at all. They use reading assignments, written exams, papers, and reports. So you can see this group of people are totally contrary to these social learners. And this forms a type. So among your students, you might definitely see some who are social and some who are independent. And how can you reach out to these two group of people? When you are having an activity or while you are teaching, try to have them mix up so that the strength of one can be the weakness of one can be the strength of the other person. That is, you match their strengths and weaknesses. If child A is weak in social learning, child B is strong in social learning, they can work together. If child B is weak in independent learning, child A will be strong in social learning, then they can work together. That will provide a perfect mixture so that they can also outgrow their limits and their weaknesses. So let's move to the third category. That is the analytical and global learning theory. This theory describes the order in which a learner prefers to process information received by looking at a whole, then breaking it down into individual parts, or by looking at each individual part and then combining it into a whole. So you can see these ones, they absorb, they love that you introduced the whole picture. Sometimes they are called the right brain and left brain. So let's look at it into a bit in a detail. The global learner are called the right brainer. And this is how it works. The right brainers are those who have their intelligence on their right brain. And usually, this type of people, they write with their left hand. They may not be all left-handers, but usually they write with their left hand. They are right brainers, and they are called global learners. And they need to process the big picture view. They need to view it as a big picture first, then they can now concentrate on the individual parts that make up the big picture. So for these people, if you want to teach the solar system, for example, you might need to show them the solar system entirely. When they see it, and then you can begin to talk about each planet that is involved in the solar system. They love it when you are starting from the whole and then to the smaller bits. They are uncomfortable learning when they do not have a sense of the big picture. So if you are introducing your lesson and then you are not giving them an overview, the context into which you are talking about, this type of learners will get lost. They will get lost amidst your teaching. These students appreciate an overview of the material before you start teaching. So when you come to class and you have this type of learners, you want to tell them about what you are studying for the day. And that is what we call the connecting them to the learning. You are trying to give them a big picture. For such learners, you can play an activity that will help them process the information, and then before you go into the learning proper. So, like I told you, they process information globally and simultaneously. They deal with images. They tend to be creative, artistic, imaginative, emotional, and intuitive. And generally, they like working in teams. They also try mental imagery, drawing maps, metaphors, music, and dance, experiential learning. So these are they. Now let's look at the analytical learners. Those who learn, they are called left brainers. And most of them, they use their right hand, when they are writing. Usually, it is not common, but it's usually. They process information logically, sequentially, and in small parts. Of course, they feel uncomfortable with learning that is occurring out of sequence. These type of learners, they like you to structure your learning. They like you to structure your teaching. You don't teach haphazardly. Once you teach that way, they are lost. They tend to enjoy spelling. They tend to enjoy number sequence. They tend to enjoy thinking and reading activities. They tend to enjoy analysis and speaking. For those of you who are aware of the Bloom taxonomy, it works perfectly for this type of learners. So try lessons with outlines, try lessons with reading assignment, try lessons with multiple choice assessment so that you can reach this type of learners. So far we have talked about two broad types of learners. We have talked about the visual, auditory, and kinesthetic learners, who are the first type. And then we have now looked at the social and the analytic learners. Let's go and study the differences between the analytical and the global learners. Looking at the forest and the trees. This is to make you understand better what I just explained. For the analytical learners, when you have the picture of the forest and the trees, they separate the forest from the tree first. And they look at every tree in the forest before being comfortable enough to declare that they are in the forest. So if you tell them, you take them to the forest and you tell them this is the forest, no. They will first of all analyze each tree, try to understand that, okay, a forest is the combination of many, many trees. They will first of all identify that before they accept that they are in the forest. But for the global learners, once they walk up to several trees, they quickly know that it is the forest. Remember, the global learners, they like the overview. Once they see it, they can identify it easily. But for the analytical ones, they like it structured. That is the difference between the two. And I'm sure you are getting me very correctly. Now, you may be surprised that all that we have been saying since a few minutes ago, they are all linked together into a concept that we call multiple intelligence. So the way your students receive information, either by listening, either by seeing, either by touching, either by global perspective or analytics, it is all infused in the multiple intelligence. That is why you cannot practice multiple intelligence without your knowledge of the learning styles. They always go together. If you want to practice very well multiple intelligence, your learners must be aware of their learning styles. You as a teacher, you must also be aware of your learning styles. Then you will be able to attribute their learning preference into the multiple intelligence as propounded by our Gardner. So the multiple intelligence styles are there, suggesting their abilities in 8 different areas. And multiple intelligence tells us that knowledge is not fixed. Intelligence is not fixed. they come in different ways. So your children learn differently. Okay, let's take, for example, a music class. For you to be able to assess students in a music class, you may not be able to give them.
Thank you for that. God bless you.
There is a background noise.
My sister. That last time when you come, eh? Thank you very much. Thanks.
All right. Your teaching, your learners have these styles. So you must come from the level of their learning preference and then match it to the multiple intelligence styles that it corresponds to. Now, so the 3 basic learning styles are now compounded into 8 intelligences. That is what I am saying. So we have the verbal linguistic skills, those who are outspoken, those who are very, very eloquent, they speak very well, they are bold, and those ones are usually good in literacy, subjects that has to do with reading and writing. Logical skills, we have the mathematicians, those who are good in reasoning, in logical arithmetics and the rest. We have some who are body kinesthetic, those one love sports, they also love to be involved in activities, bodily activities. We have the visual spatial skills, we have the interpersonal abilities, those ones like to interact with people. And then we have the intra abilities, those who like to be reserved. We have the musical abilities, those who like to be involved in music. And we have the naturalistic abilities, those who like nature. So all of these learning styles, they always find their roots. All these multiple intelligences have their roots in the learning styles. It is the learning styles that, propounded, that compounded into the multiple intelligences style. So they go together. When you want to assess your children or you want to teach your children, you want to make sure that you understand this very, very well. And what is the output? What is the output? The output of this gives us those who are extraversion and introversion, that is, those who are socially oriented. And that is what gives us the extrovert type, those who like talking with others and taking action. They prefer active learning and group projects. And among them, we have introverts. So as they grow up, they begin to exhibit these qualities, these attributes. For the introverts, they prefer to have others do the talking. They prefer lectures and structured tasks. And you want to bear me witness that even as you are listening to me, some of your characteristics, some of your attributes, some of your traits are seen on the slide. And that is who we are. It started from the learning style, compounded into the multiple intelligence, and is giving us the output that we are having now. So we've talked about the extroverts and the introverts. Now we have those whom we call the decision makers, those who make decisions, and we call them the thinkers, and then the feelers. For the thinkers, they like to take an objective approach and emphasize logic and analysis in their decision. They are very, very objective whenever they are talking. They prefer objective feedback and thrive when there is pressure to succeed. They involve themselves in a lot of thinking activities. And these are people who are towing the line of the great philosopher Aristotle. The second type of people here are feelers. They prefer emotions to logic. They give greater weight to the impact of relationships in their decisions. And of course, they prefer positive feedback and individual recognitions. So the feelers and the thinkers, they are more or less into the affective domain of learning. But this is the outcome of what? Of the learning styles into the multiple intelligence. When they are well harnessed, it gives us the outcome that you are seeing on the slide. Let's look at another category. There are some we call the judges and some the perceivers. These are people that are set to achieve goals. They are your students. They are determined to achieve goals. They are judges. They prefer clearly defined strategies to achieve their goals. So they will want you to give them specifications, a route plan, a blueprint of whatever you want them to do. They also jump to closure too quickly. They jump to conclusion. They are very hyper and they are very forward in their thoughts. They prefer orderliness, though they prefer also structure, and they like when you give them deadlines so that they can point at you that I have done my work or I have not finished. And the same applies to you when you have not finished your time or you have told them you're going to do something and you don't do it. These judges, they will point at you and said, sir, you said you're going to do this, but you didn't do it. It happens in our classes. And this as a result of them harnessing their learning styles. And they come up with ideas like, my mind is made up, don't confuse me with facts. They are very, very straightforward. The second type of learners, as part of their outcome, are perceivers. They like to consider all sides of the problem and may be at some risk for not completing their work. They always perceive. They prefer spontaneity and flexibility. These are the type of learners you take time to explain. You do what we call scaffolding. You give them one activity after the other. You don't compound it for them. But if you do it bit by bit, they will definitely achieve for you. So we've looked at a few outcomes of learning styles. The first type were the thinkers and the feelers. And then we had the judges and the perceivers. And I'm sure you are following with me. Now, to conclude our presentation, we want to be able to use our knowledge of learning style. When students know their learning styles, both their strengths and their weaknesses, it can help them study more effectively. This is the goal of this presentation. This is why you need to know about learning styles. This is why you need to understand your own learning styles and the learning styles of your students. When you do, and they also know their learning style, they will be able to adapt and they will be able to overcome their weaknesses and study more effectively because they already know what works for them and what does not work for them. As you can see it, they hear it, and they experience it. So the roadmap of this presentation actually was to take you from the knowledge of the learning styles, that is the visual learners, the auditory learners, the kinesthetic learners, and then we delve into the social learners and the independent learners, and the global learners and the analytic learners. That led us to the multiple intelligences, which we identified, the 8 of them, and the output of the multiple intelligences gave rise to the thinkers, the feelers, the judges, the perceivers. And this is something that happens almost every day. At this point in time, when they have grown into adults, even you as an adult, you will begin to see some of these traits in your relationship with other people. So that is the impact. That is how far learning style can take a child to. That is how far multiple intelligence can take your learning to. That is how far, when you employ varieties of methods and teaching aids in relating with your student, in teaching your student, this is the impact that it can make on them. They can make choices of their own, they can decide what to do, and they are more free when they are faced with any assignment or project in life. So, build and strengthening the learning styles. Make the best use of your learning style. Are you a student listening to me? Make use of your learning styles in the best possible way. Work harder with your skills and don't, because they don't come easily. Work harder in skills that don't come easily to you. That is, try to improve yourself in the skills that don't easily come to you. You need to acquire, work hard and develop your skills to ensure that you are an all-rounder. You are not just somebody who is just facing one part of the learning style alone. Like I said, you can improve others. When you mix children in a group, they can learn together. They can exchange their skills. As time goes on, you have students who are very reserved, and towards the end of the year, they are becoming active because they have been able to mix with others. They have been able to do different activities because the teacher has singled them out and has decided to help them out. So this is what the knowledge of learning styles help us to achieve. Another point is that you have to be flexible and adaptable. Try new things and new ways. Even as a teacher, you need to be flexible. Do not put, don't do it as a skyrocket. Don't do it as if it's all cast in stone. Make sure that you adopt different methods, varieties of style that will interest your learners. Keep growing. Don't be easily satisfied. So that is my advice for you. Keep growing, keep learning. But remember, no matter what your learning style is, it is very, very important for you to be involved in class, to participate, to link classroom experience to the outside world, to relate your class concept into your own life. That is the relevance. And then you should be able to ask questions and offer constructive criticism. You can also stimulate further relevant discussion with your friends in different groups during recreational activities. Don't get distracted, stay on task. Keep an open mind. There are many ideas beyond your own. You may not know it all. You may not know it all. So you have to continue to involve yourself with others. Share your knowledge with people. Share your knowledge with your classmates. As a teacher, share your knowledge with your colleagues. Involve yourself in the community. Try to know more about your learners. That will help you to teach them better. And I leave you with these thoughts. All life is learning, and it never stops. What we are talking about today, it's about learning. You have discovered a new way that children receive information. We have established the fact that we have visual auditory learners. We have established the fact that we have social learners. We have independent learners. We have established the fact that we have global learners and we have analytical learners. And we have also told you that these basic learning styles are expanded into multiple intelligences. And these multiple intelligences, as the children grow up, they begin to exhibit, some certain skills. And they come out as thinkers, judges, perceivers, as you have seen them on the slide. So, my dear friends, this is where I will draw the curtain for today. Thank you for following. Thank you for listening. I appreciate you all. I remain Dr. Joel Olaniyan. Have a wonderful day, and bye. Like I said, I'm going to share with you a link for you to know your learning styles. So that will be shared to you right now. So if you are online, please stay there. I have posted the link. Dr. Ruchi, please can you check for the link and share to the Facebook participants?
Okay, Dr. Joel, I can also please put in the chat so I can also give them here in the chat, or I will see. No problem.
Yes, I've sent it. Have you seen it?
No, I don't see. Let me see. I only see the link what I put. I don't see your link here. No.
Let me send it to your WhatsApp. I will send it to
Okay.
your WhatsApp.
No. Send me here in the chat. Send me here in the
Okay.
chat. So, okay. Yes. I see it. I will put it in the on the Facebook. Yes. Okay. Okay. I will.
Yeah.
So we are at the end, Dr. Joel. I will finish the session.
Yes, we are done.